NPCs, NPCs, NPCs. And we're not talking about neutron particle cannons from Renegade Legion. We're talking about non-player characters, because they are the heart and soul of your RPG game. It doesn't matter whether you are in some dungeon, dodging traps, you're sneaking through some large skyscraper, dodging Ventrus, delving into some non-Euclidean mania in some lost forgotten temple somewhere on Earth in the 1930s, hoping to not meet the Cthulhus. Or you're aboard some space battle station rescuing princesses. None of these are interesting without some NPCs to talk to. Small guards who are just there to punch their clerks and guard the thing, but, if you bribe them, they'll let you go past. They don't care. If you give them money, sure, why not? Or, if you let them eat the hobbit and the elf, or and that little girl, and give us some money. Suddenly you got someone interesting to talk to in that dungeon. Or that ghoul in the Ventru skyscraper. The one who doesn't like being addicted to vampire blood and will do anything to betray his new vampiric overlords. If only you can convince him that you can actually pull it off. Otherwise, he probably will hit the alarm bell. Or you'll have to kill him. Or, if you're down some non-Euclidean geometry, some deep ones, gutturally muttering to themselves, or some insane cultists who want to join in their Cthulhu worshipping ritual. Not necessarily as a victim. Maybe you could participate. Maybe you could help raise Great Cthulhu. Now we'll talk about how amazing it is, how to stare into the face of primordial flabby insanity will totally blow your mind. Or if you're on some Imperial battle station, rescuing a space princess, maybe the guard has to be, there are a few guards you have to get past and have to outthink or outtalk. And maybe that space princess is just a bit tougher and meaner than you expected, and not all that grateful that you bunch of incompetent PCs have turned up. Maybe she wants to take charge. Those are the interesting things in your dungeon, be it a natural dungeon, skyscraper, temple, or battle station. It is the NPCs in there that make it interesting, because they give something for the PCs to interact with, to talk to bust out their role-playing chops, to find out whether they really are on the side of the angels. And that is done with NPCs. Because it doesn't matter if you've got Mind Flayers riding Tarrasque with Beholder air support. None of that is interesting unless we know who the Mind Flayers are, unless we've met them before. We've heard about their plans, their weird eugenic experiments they're going to conduct on humankind to breed a tastier brain. And maybe the players agree with some of those ideas, because maybe if you become the brain breeders, you don't become the people who get eaten. Or maybe they just want to be that. Maybe they want to stick it to the man, turn the tables, overthrow society. And, getting rid of the Mind Flayers afterwards, well, that's a problem for the other day. Suddenly the Mind Flayers are interesting, you know who they are, you know what they want, you know what their plan is. And maybe you can talk them into it, or you can talk them out of it. That's interesting. Also, take some of the classic scenes from cinema, like Indiana Jones that opening scene in the first movie, where he's basically doing dungeon crawl. Imagine that as in your typical RPG, checking for traps, looking in various corners, figuring out the puzzle, and then running away from the giant rock thing. That takes 5 minutes of cinema time. Probably take 2 hours of game time. And it's not going to be terribly interesting in that second hour, especially as no one to talk to. What makes that scene interesting in both the movie and in an RPG is when they meet the villain who's outside with his goons saying, "Thanks for doing all the heavy lifting. Now, hand over the loot." Suddenly the players are confronted with the villain. They find out that the villain's a bit clever, a bit ruthless, and they're going to hate him because he's just stolen their loot. They're also probably going to devolve into an argument whether they give the villain the loot or not. If you ever ask PCs, your money or your life, be prepared for a debate. They are going to argue it out. So that's what you want. That's what you want. You want them interacting, and you want them interacting with each other, and for there to be some NPCs in there, just so the GM can always throw in a line, or get the action moving along, or go in somewhere else. Because that's interesting. Searching a dungeon, you don't do that for so long. Fighting monsters, only do that for so long. It's only so interesting, even with Beholder air support. They're still just saving throws. They're not particularly exciting once you get over it. But NPCs are interesting, are exciting. And people come back and they like to meet recurring NPCs. Think of Wedge Antilles from Star Wars, a recurring NPC. We meet him in all 3 of the movies. He's this hotshot pilot. He doesn't actually do much. He gets an occasional line, but he's always there. And you get to recognise him and go, yeah, there's that hotshot pilot guy. He's part of the rebellion. And he probably has an interesting story himself. No doubt. There are people who have written vast tracts on whatever his story is. Why is he an ex-pilot? Why does he fly for the rebellion? Who is he? But we see him, and he's just this interesting NPC, and he obviously gets along with Luke. He goes along with all his crazy ideas and plans and things. But he's always there. He's an NPC. We know a little bit about it. It gives a little bit of colour to the otherwise space fighters and explosions and whatever. We actually care whether he makes it out or not. Similarly with many of the other bit side characters. Lando, Chewbacca, these are NPC characters. They don't have large speaking roles, but they're there to provide some colour. And so it is with your minor NPCs. Your minor NPCs should be there to provide most of the colour in your scenario, in your game. If you want some oppressive, gothic punk atmosphere, then you're going to want to throw in some gothic punks, or some goths and some punks if you just want to do it easily. You're going to want depressed, downtrodden street people. You're going to want people hurrying from their job to their home at night, not really noticing that there are vampires in the shadows. They're just in a hurry. And if you talk to them, they're in a hurry. They're stressed. They're caught. They are the scurrying little people. You're going to want disinterested cops. You're going to want oppressive bureaucrats. You're going to want people who go, I'm not really terribly interested in your problem. You're going to want minor NPCs like that in your vampire game. Contrariwise, in your heroic fantasy, you're going to want some bright, colourful characters. If you're playing Princesses and Paladins version of D&D, then you're going to want some bold knights, some damsels, some goodly kings, some mad kings, some insane kings, some evil kings. You're going to want their functionaries and their minions and all the little people. You're going to want thieves of a heart of gold and could give you information, form the loyal resistance. You're going to want all these little people. And they give the area colour. Suddenly, all those little people are what makes a fantasy universe a fantasy universe. Lord of the Rings is not really Lord of the Rings without its Tom Bombadils and its Merrys. Maybe Mary's a PC. But all the other side hobbits that you meet, in that early first scene, the barkeeper at Bree, Elrond is an interesting exposition NPC, and so on. They're what makes Lord of the Rings Lord of the Rings. You get to hear all these people, including that elf hero guy. Didn't make it to the movies, but it's probably the elf version of Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're all in there. They're all part of the thing. Star Wars is not without its NPCs. And they give it colour. All the weird aliens. You go and talk to a weird alien. What's this weird alien? Why does he look like a big fish? What's his thing? Well, why does this alien look like a weird little Spanish dude? Or why does this one talk with a Jamaican accent? What are their gimmicks? What can they bring? What can they help us with? Why have we suddenly recruited an army of teddy bears? NPCs. They do something. They give the entire setting colour, and they inform the players what the genre is about. You walk into a vampire game, meet the NPCs, you suddenly get a hint of the oppressiveness. You go into a classic fantasy game, you get an idea that these are slightly larger-than-life characters. You do your Star Wars space epic, and you suddenly realise you're in a universe where everyone is actually good or evil. And it's the NPCs which do it, not the swords, not the sorcery, not the fangs, and not the spaceships, but the NPCs. Thank you.